everybody. Hope everyone is having a fun and exciting and safe Wednesday. I certainly had an incredibly exciting night tonight, which is what we're going to be unpacking on the stream. I'm super excited to show you everything. But first of all, I will just say I am safe. I am in a hotel room. The door is dead bolted, so all of that is good. And I will be leaving the state of Virginia tomorrow morning after a really wild few hours. So for those that didn't get to catch the spontaneous live stream that happened on my Instagram earlier today, and I apologize, I am dealing with like horrible airport hotel Wi-Fi right now, so I know that there's a huge lag in the stream and there's probably going to be some glitches here and there. I don't have my really nice webcam with me. We're not in our home studio, but I figured this was pretty important for us to be talking about tonight, so I am deciding to do it anyway, even though we don't have all of the bells and whistles when it comes to our stream. Earlier today, I got on an airplane from Miami and went through Charlotte to Richmond, Virginia, and was speaking with part of the bigger, larger tour that I have been signed on to do this spring with the incredible, inspiring, very kind, spunky Kristan Hawkins, the founder and president of the Students for Life of America organization that I do a lot of work with as a content creator. I was asked to join Kristan on her spring speaking tour this year to provide a Gen Z and scientific basis set of talking points for the Lies Pro-Choicers Believe tour. We've been to several college campuses already across America, and we have a few more to go. And tonight we were scheduled to appear at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. I had never been to VCU. This is my first experience at VCU. It's actually my first time I've ever been to Richmond, Virginia, believe it or not. I used to live right down the road in Washington, D.C., but I have never been to Richmond. And honestly, I had like zero expectations for what the event was going to be tonight. Typically, right now in the post-COVID era, most college campus speaking events have been incredibly tame. There are the handful of really crazy stuff that usually happens on campuses in California, like what happened with Charlie Kirk's speaking event and my friend Joe Bob at UC Davis a few weeks ago. But I never expected Richmond, Virginia to be the epicenter hub of all things insanity and violent protesting until tonight. So, spoiler alert with the story. I lost my Antifa virginity tonight. Whoop, whoop. Don't we love to hear it? It's very exciting stuff, and I, for one, could not be more excited about all of that. So I ended up coming into the campus. We saw several pretty overtly leftist people just based on how they were dressed. Everyone was wearing masks. Everyone was in all black. Lots of gender confusion as we were pulling onto campus, and we walked literally just across this small street in downtown Richmond, Virginia, to the building that we were going to be speaking in tonight. And as we were waiting in the green room, some of the students associated with our Students for Life chapter came in and said, hey, there's a lot of people filling up our room right now that have really crazy signs. They have masks on. They're clearly not associated with our chapter, but just so you know, you're probably going to have some protesters tonight. And I'm like, frick, yes, because I love protesters. I love questions. We have a rule of thumb when Kristan and I go speak on campuses that if you disagree with us, you can skip to the front of the line and ask us any question that you want about the abortion industry, about why we're pro-life, about literally anything under the sun. And so far, that's been incredibly fruitful on the campuses that we've instituted that policy. In fact, just a few days ago at Virginia Tech University down the road, we said, you know what, before we even give our speech at all, you guys can all come to the front of the line. You can immediately start asking us questions, and then we'll do our speech if you came here as a protester who was standing outside. We ended up going back and forth with several people for about 45 minutes at Virginia Tech. It was awesome, and I think genuinely we planted a lot of seeds that changes people's minds over time. So we offered to do the same thing again tonight at VCU in Richmond, Virginia. Unfortunately, as we were waiting in the hallway, about to go in to our speaking event, we quickly discovered that our offer to answer anyone's question and have a genuine conversation would be dramatically rejected. Before we even entered the room, the incredible chapter president of the Students for Life chapter at VCU, her name is Autumn, and she is a freaking warrior that I will tell you a little bit more about later in the story, started to intro who Kristan and I even were, and didn't even have the opportunity to say our names before the entire room erupted in screaming chants of Nazis go home and fascists go home. It's a little bit ironic, but I don't know. And Kristan and I ended up having to just go in without any introduction, and we stood at the podium and were screamed at for a few minutes before we could even get a word in edgewise. I whipped out my phone and decided to start live streaming on my Instagram account, which I normally don't do because typically when we stream, we want it to go across platforms, and Instagram right now, you can only go on one platform, but it was just one of those moments where you had to whip it on out and stream, and I got some interesting responses and interesting interactions that happened. So I have downloaded the stream from my Instagram. I want to play it for all of you guys that didn't get a chance to see. If there's anything hugely important that needs clarification, I will pause it and just provide a little bit of commentary there. But without further ado, please enjoy what has easily been the wildest college campus event I have ever done. And as we finish the live stream, I'm going to tell you action steps of what we are going to do next in response to Virginia Commonwealth University's completely botched response to this speaking event, what we are asking of them and expecting of them, and how you can all continue to impact these types of conversations moving forward on college campuses, in the digital space, and everywhere in between for Gen Z.
We'd be happy to begin our presentation, take any questions from those, and I would be happy to not actually...
We are at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and ANTIFA has decided to join our event. So instead of being able to talk, this is what we're dealing with.
Guys, it gets so much better. It gets so much better.
You don't have to like us. We can have a real conversation instead.
So it started with them like sitting in the audience.
Okay, so maybe instead of standing up to everybody, why don't we have a real conversation? That's what...
And then they come approach the podiums.
Go the fuck home.
Do we have a microphone, Kevin?
Do we have a microphone at all for questions?
No.
So we
There's
have
Kevin.
Invited everyone
Our
to
amazing-
ask
Amazing
questions
production, guys.
instead of scream at us in the middle of this event.
I know there's a lag too because I downloaded it from Instagram, so I apologize.
Thank you for coming tonight. I would be happy to take any questions. Right now we have a lot of men trying to shout at us and tell two women what to do.
So you can't really hear Kristan because all you can hear is fascists go home, but she's saying there's an awful lot of men in this room trying to yell at two women about fascism and the abortion industry and the pro-life industry. How weird, but we are offering not even to give our speech. We don't even have to give our speech. We hear that you disagree with us. Let's have a real conversation. And this was their response.
Our children. And no, let's not forget the Antifa flags that hung over their asses. But obviously, us being here has made some people upset. And that's okay. Because this is free speech. And we have no right to be here.
I just really feel for the pro-life kids that are sitting in the front. And there were several pro-choice people that came to this event who genuinely did want to learn a difference of opinion and ask a bunch of conversational questions, and they didn't have an opportunity to. Some of them did later on, and I'll get to that part of the story, but I feel bad for all of these kids just sitting there trying to learn.
As you are. Now, if you would like to ask us any questions, you can line up right here on the first step, and you can ask us any logical
So please come down, ask us questions.
time.
Here's this podium.
To address any questions you may have. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? Please come to the mic and ask your question. And maybe everyone who's chanting and trying to stop free speech.
Guys, it gets so much
Do you have a
worse.
question? Okay.
You're stifling free speech.
Fuck you, you
Last time I did.
So,
What's your question?
so the great actually fascism, just so you know. So, just a thought. Why don't you guys come down and we mean it. No question is off limits. No question is off limits.
Now we're chanting fuck pro-lifers. So we repeatedly made the effort to try to invite these people to have conversations.
Unfortunately, Kristan and I are prohibited from speaking or answering any question that we have an open book for. We're inviting anyone to come ask us any question and skip to the front of the line. And this is instead what's happening, calling us Nazis and fascists.
Let me also just say, these people have no idea who we are. Like, genuinely, all that they know about us is that they saw a tweet from the Young Democratic Socialists of America Club saying that some fascists were coming to speak on campus. Some pro-lifers were coming to speak on campus. They don't know anything about us, what we believe. Like, we were there to literally answer any question. Anything. Anything that these students wanted to ask, we were going to answer. But they had completely made up their minds about us before we even were introduced, before I could even say my name. You'll hear throughout most of these chants that there is a specific depth in the tone of voice, i.e., almost every single person that was screaming at us was a man. Which should terrify you, by the way, even if you are a liberal feminist, because men being this passionate about the ending of innocent child's lives so that they can have no consequences when they have sex with you should terrify you. That's what I think of when I think of a SA culture at the end of the day.
What do we want? When do we want them now? You want to be abortion rights now. Abortion rights now. Abortion rights now. Abortion rights now.
So again, we would love to invite literally anyone. If you guys want to ask a question, come on down, ask a question.
Isabel and I are happy to put aside our planned speech and address our...
Have a real dialogue.
We don't give a shit.
How about you guys? Do any of you guys have a question? We got one. Awesome. Come on
Here
down.
we
Right
have
here.
our first question.
All these school shootings are happening. How come you guys care about life when it's inside the womb, but when it's outside the womb? Y'all don't want free childcare. Y'all don't want free, like, you don't want to actually care about these kids once they're outside the womb. You also don't want free formula. You guys won't do anything to stop these gun violence that are happening that are killing these kids.
Okay, so it's hard to hear her, but basically this girl was asking, and it's hard to hear all of these people, by the way, because they're screaming at you with masks on their face. But this girl comes forward and she says, in the wake of all of these school shootings that are happening, how come you guys say that you care about children? And then her question goes in a totally different direction. And she says, why don't you provide free baby formula? Why don't you provide free healthcare? Well, we do. The pro-life movement does all of those things every single day. This was how we responded.
I was in a shooting 5 years ago at Myrtle Beach. Yeah. And even though it was a false call, I didn't even know some of us would have died. So if you're going to say y'all are pro-life, that means like outside the womb.
It absolutely does. We could not agree more.
And that's why the pro-life movement has started.
Would you like me to answer the question? No. So clearly they don't actually want an answer to this question.
So this is the problem.
Your behavior right now, dehumanizing Isabel and I, and telling us to fuck off. Your behavior right now is what leads to gun violence. Because you have dehumanized Isabel and I to the point where you call us Nazis and tell us to fuck off. You dehumanize us. That's what Nazis do.
Not
So I would say, if we want
formula. We are providing free health care for expectant mothers and their children every single day. I hate that you guys have made up your mind about people like me because of a post you saw on social media, when we're here to have a real dialogue and a real conversation. Can you come down? We can't hear you. Can you come right here?
Guys, it gets so much worse. So much worse.
I can't hear what you're saying. Can you come down here? Sorry, one more time. Where do we believe life begins? Biologically, life begins at conception. That's affirmed by 96% of biologists. Not necessarily.
So this girl actually had several questions for us throughout the night. This first question was a great question. What do we think about fertility clinics? I'm assuming what she's specifically asking for is, what do we think about IVF? This is a really nuanced answer, and we've gotten this question on other college campuses where we've been able to provide the nuanced answer that there are specific problems associated with how most people do IVF, but there is a more ethical way of doing IVF where you only create one embryo instead of creating a ton of embryos. It's a lot more expensive, it's a lot more difficult, it's a lot less likely that that child will be able to be carried to term, but it does happen. And I would have loved to have that conversation with this girl. Instead, she's like, what do you think about fertility clinics? And then she kind of just runs away, but she'll come back up to the podium several times.
Fertility clinics discard thousands of fetuses.
We have a problem with that, yes. But there is an ethical way to engage in IVF and fertility clinics and create. We talk about it all the time. We'd be happy to answer questions about that if you guys would be willing to ask. That's it.
Would you like to ask a question? Okay, so do you oppose Planned Parenthood?
I oppose Planned Parenthood, yes.
98% of what Planned Parenthood does is preventative.
That's actually
Said, do you oppose Planned Parenthood? Are you aware that 98% of what Planned Parenthood does is preventative care? I think is what she ended up saying.
not true. The Washington Post, of all sources, which is an abundantly pro-abortion source, says 11% of Planned Parenthood services are directly related to the abortion industry. It is a literal abortion. Planned Parenthood is unapologetically an abortion provider. There are about 600 Planned Parenthood clinics in the United States that perform abortions. There are about 3,000 pro-life pregnancy centers that perform free maternal care.
Shout out to our private security tonight.
There are several.
Sitting there, and their education is being disrupted by your fascist dictator.
I'm sorry, you're saying that what we're doing is indoctrination and what you're doing is not indoctrination.
Any question you want, and you won't ask a question. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
1%, motherfucker!
I'm the 1%. Wow.
So then it turns into class warfare, because as we know, everything that these extremist Antifa style Young Democratic Socialists of America, BLM type protesters do is intersectional, right? Like there's no way to be a feminist unless you're also pro BLM, unless you're also supportive of the Green New Deal, unless you also support communism and literal socialism, right? Because the working class, you're the 1% if you disagree with anything that I'm saying, even if that's not actually true, right? I'm a 25-year-old unmarried woman, soon to be married. Thanks, babe. I am not the 1% financially. I do make money because I choose to do things more productive with my time and my life than this, but that's a separate conversation. And so they start yelling at me about how I'm the 1%, and then they ask me what I studied, and I said biomedical sciences. I'm a scientist. That's why I'm here to talk to you about that. And then they call me the bourgeoisie.
My degree is actually in biomedical sciences, and my master's degree is in,
Because education is the 1%, is the bourgeoisie. Let's just conveniently forget about the fact that all of these people are also getting their college degree. So are they the 1%? Are they the bourgeoisie?
So I'm here as a scientist to talk to you about following the science. That's
And these are all the people wearing masks because they think that they need to keep following the science.
it. That's it. Wow.
Totally.
So again, if you're just now tuning in, we're at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. We haven't even been able to give a speech or answer any questions yet because instead this is what is happening. I actually feel really horrible for these kids because they're absolutely miserable. So I'm not persecuted. Any one of you. We are inviting a real conversation with any one of you. I would love to hear more about your signs. I would love to hear more about your perspective.
Would you all like to ask a question? One at a time. We'll answer any question you have, but one person.
You have a question? We can't hear you, so can you ask your friends to be quiet? No, we're here to have a real dialogue, but thank you for your question.
What do you mean by abortion industry? The corporate abortion industry that actually
Again, really hard to hear because they're going like above and beyond and screaming at this point. But this person, I think it's a woman, but you know, it's hard to tell these days, especially when you've covered every single orifice of your body, asked, what do you mean by the abortion industry? And so Kristan and I then start explaining, well, this is an industry that makes money, right? Like that is an industry off of performing abortions, largely Planned Parenthood, America's largest abortion provider. And here's the response.
Planned Parenthood makes a profit off of every abortion that they commit.
Planned Parenthood is non-profit, dumbass.
Planned Parenthood makes a profit from abortion.
That profits over $150 million. Yes, you can go to GuideStar.com.
Planned Parenthood's own website provides their revenue statistics.
Rewatching this is wild because clearly I was in a very different headspace a few hours ago than I am right now.
All right, thank you for your question. That's what we mean by the abortion industry. Does anyone else have a question? Other people do.
Leave VCU. Then the Antifa flag starts coming out, so this gets interesting. Here's where things start picking up. From this point on in the video, actual altercations start taking place. So up to this point, they were sitting and screaming, and then they were standing in their spot and screaming, and then they came to the middle and started screaming and started advancing on us with the podiums and started screaming. From this point on in the video, things started to get really insane. And you might be asking yourself, wow, what a disruption of an event that has been previously scheduled on this campus for the last several months. Where the hell are the university police? Great question. We had the same question. It turns out they had been contacted by the Students for Life chapter on campus, told that the event was happening, told that there was likely going to be protesters. There is a history of these same people protesting the Students for Life chapter on campus, including while they were tabling and out and about advertising for the various things that their chapter is doing. And the police department on campus decided not to show up. They decided not to send anybody because apparently only 6 people were registered for the event, even though that they knew there was a history of conflict between these people and the chapter on campus. And so when we showed up to Virginia Commonwealth University today, there were no police officers, which was a first for me. Every single campus event that I've ever done, there has been at least one campus security officer or the local police department or anybody who could provide security. outside of the 2 members of private security that Kristan and I had, there was no security presence whatsoever. So when things did start to escalate from this point, as the crowd starts approaching Kristan and I when we were at the podiums and when we were trying to gather some of our camera equipment because we were worried it was going to get damaged or stolen, fists start flying from here on out. And at that point, the campus police department decided, okay, now it is warranted for us to show up here. What they did once they showed up was completely backwards, and we'll get to that in just a second. But here's where things start to get really interesting.
Wow.
We didn't want to go anywhere, clearly.
So, again, hi, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself at all yet. My name is Isabel Brown. I am an independent content creator and author and a public speaker, and I am here with Students for Life to answer your questions from a Gen Z perspective on how we can embrace a more loving approach to women and children. And I would love to incorporate any of your questions into this conversation, because what we are here to do on any college campus, but VCU included, is to have a real dialogue.
No, girl, Isabel, past Isabel, what are you doing? That angle is so bad, and the fluorescent lighting is just rough. So bear with me as we look directly up my chin in the fluorescent lighting. But clearly I'm trying, right? I hadn't even had a chance to introduce myself yet. These people didn't even know my name yet, unless they were already following me on social media. And we are almost 15 minutes into this video.
And a real conversation.
Then my amazing friend, the courageous, the fearless, the spunky Kristan Hawkins decides, okay, well, if they're not going to ask us any questions, maybe we should take it upon ourselves to actually educate these students on what they're screaming about, because I don't think they really know what an abortion actually is. So she starts pulling out the surgical tools that are used to perform an abortion. And this is where people start losing their minds.
There is straight up a grown-ass man out here. all of you and get to know you and have a civilized dialogue.
At that point, they started cheering because Kristan decided, let's go call the campus police and get them to show up to remove these hooligans if they're not going to shut up, or at least like try to institute some level of peace in the situation. So they're cheering thinking that they won, getting Kristan to leave the room, but in reality, she just stepped out for a minute.
So, forgive me if I don't know this. Forgive me if I don't know this, but doesn't your university have a policy where you're supposed to sit through and listen to people? We University. This is fascism, and yet they're chanting, "We hate fascists," because they can't stand a single difference of opinion or a real dialogue. We are inviting anyone to ask any question. We haven't even given a speech yet, and this is instead what is happening.
Forgive me, I haven't eaten all day, and now I finally have food, so we're gonna watch and eat at the same time. Somebody in our YouTube chat just said, this is a sickness. Literally, these people were so far beyond help to a level that I have never seen before on a college campus. I give my generation the benefit of the doubt 100% of the time. And so it made me really sad that a very small minority of just mentally deranged, completely impossible to talk to individuals went so far above and beyond to silence the majority of people in that room who did actually want to have dialogues. Who I'm assuming is, I mean, he dresses like a professor. He theoretically could be a professor. I assumed this person was on faculty or staff. I have no idea if that's actually true. So if any of you know this individual as he gets closer to the camera, please let us know. Drop it in the live chat. I would love to know why he was there and screaming and clapping in my face. He then proceeds to tell me that I am in favor of locking women up who have obtained an abortion. The pro-life movement as a whole is very outspoken against prosecuting women. We believe that most women have been completely lied to and duped by the abortion industry, and they are victims of the abortion industry as well, not just the children who unfortunately lose their lives because of abortion procedures. There's a law, for example, in South Carolina where they're assuming, yeah, I do need a mod. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm trying to do like 8,000 things at once, and we have some trolls in our YouTube chat, so I apologize for that. Keeping up with it as much as I can. So, where was I going? The law in South Carolina. There's a law in South Carolina that's theoretically going to be talking about this. The pro-life movement as a whole is very outspoken against this particular type of rhetoric of the idea that women should be going to prison for obtaining an abortion. We are very outspoken about it. We say that that's not a good idea. That's not included in any of our laws. So this random old person, grown-ass man, comes to this event tonight, starts clapping in our faces and screaming, and approaches myself and several other times approaches Kristan and tries to tell me that I'm in favor of locking women up in prison, when that's not remotely true. But when I tried to politely correct him, he goes insane. So if you know this person, please, I would love to know who he is.
Can I ask your name? Can I ask your name, sir? What's your name? Okay, sir, I stand firmly against putting women in jail for obtaining abortions. We as the pro-life...
He just kept talking and talking and talking as I responded, so he didn't really want to know.
...movement stand fundamentally against those laws, which I would love to explain to you. Do you really have nothing else better to do than to come scream at a 25-year-old on a college campus?
If anyone knows this man, I am dying to figure out who he is. Seriously, anybody speak up.
Who is they? We stand firmly against those laws. We stand firmly against...
I do just want to say really quick before we keep watching, we have somebody in our YouTube chat that says, thank you so much for coming to VCU. I am a student and I'm part of the SFLA at VCU chapter, but I was unable to come to the event tonight. Thank you for staying committed in the face of persecution. Fun with Kat in our YouTube chat. You are the reason that we do what we do. And I'm going to come back to this at the end after we've watched the video of the event tonight. We are absolutely going to be asking to be coming back to VCU, that they uphold their commitment to free speech as a public taxpayer-funded university, and I hope that you'll be able to attend the next one, and thank you for the work that you're doing on campus, because when you're surrounded by this level of insanity every day, I absolutely feel for you. So thank you for your kind words, and I know we have a lot of VCUers in our chat across platforms right now, so if you guys go to VCU and you were at the event or you didn't get an opportunity to attend the event because you had a pre-existing commitment, please let us know. We would love to say hello to you and thank you for the work that you're doing on campus.
Those laws, sir.
A 10-year-old girl was knocked up by her father.
I would love to hear more.
Have you ever noticed that there's always a 10-year-old girl that was knocked up by her father in a specific state, but the state changes all the time, and that specific story is always told? But they can't give you a source, like the name of that person or the state that it happened in.
About that story.
Like you,
No, I am
the
firmly
doctor
against
who-
those
no, let me
laws.
talk. The doctor who helped her was investigating.
My goodness, we have
You
a
think
lot of
he's
calls.
going to help 10-year-old girls raped by their father anymore?
I don't believe
That's
that
because
ending
of
an innocent
pro-life
life
movement.
is the answer to violence,
Because of the
and I
pro-life
stand
movement.
against putting women in prison.
It's what you guys are about.
So then do something valuable with his time. Really?
Hey, guess what?
So at this point, when you heard me just say, really? Kristan came back up to me and said, so the police are going to shut this event down. We're not leaving. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep doing the event. Force us out of the room if you have to. And I'm completely on board for that because I am a free speech proponent. I believe that more speech is always the answer, right? If you want to change people's minds, if you want to have a real dialogue, if you want to win the culture war, it starts with having more speech. And this was an event that we were invited to give a speech at a public, federally funded university in Richmond, Virginia, an hour away from our nation's capital. We were invited to come. We didn't just show up. But even if we did just show up, it's a public university campus. We have a right to be there. And so we said together, we are not going to leave. They're going to have to force us to leave and shut down the event if that is the case. So when you heard me say, really, that was her coming to tell me that they probably are going to shut the event down. Things start to really pick up from here.
Also, side note, the campus police have decided just not to come tonight because apparently this isn't a legitimate threat, even though this is happening as we speak. Police are choosing not to attend. This person's having an absolute meltdown. I can't see.
Remember her. The girl that you can't see her face, her mask was like up over her eyes and covering her mouth, and then her hair came down. Sorry, my mouth's full. Remember her is all I'm gonna say.
Her eyes either, so that's fun. And despite them screaming that they're going to harm us, the campus police are nowhere to be found and have decided to just let this happen. This is wild. Well, Kristan, should we tell the internet people why we're here? Because they want to listen.
Speaking at Virginia Commonwealth University, as Isabel has joined my speaking tour this spring, I'm speaking to a dozen campuses across the country. Today, Antifa decided to show up, and as it continues to threaten us, will not let us speak. Campus police are
Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, someone is literally impersonating Kristan Hawkins right now, and they spelled her name wrong, so do better, you idiots. And trying to say that we were the ones who attacked the left, and you made a fake account. I have to admire your level of ingenuity here, making a fake account saying we are the fascist ones, we are the ones who attacked the left. Wow. goodbye. You are kicked out of the chat. But wild, the links that these people will go to. I just screenshotted that. I'm gonna send it to Kristan when we're done, but she will love that one.
VCU is so afraid of Antifa. Instead of removing these jerks for violating their own campus policy.
You have a question?
Excuse me,
One
you
sec,
have
one
a
sec.
second. Instead of enforcing their own policy, they want to shut down this event, and they're going to give in to all the crybaby fascists and Antifa.
Amazingly, we actually do have a question. So, yes, what is your question?
If you give so much of a fuck about drugs, why are you letting somebody slam
I'm so sorry. I can barely hear you. It's so
I
loud.
felt so bad. Just as a side note, I felt so bad because all of these people kept coming to the front and screaming at me and trying to like yell questions at me, and I still couldn't hear them because they were hiding behind their masks and everybody's chanting and banging on things and clapping. And so I had to say this like from here on out for the rest of the video. Every single time somebody asked me a question, I had to say, I am so sorry, but I genuinely cannot hear a single word that you are saying. Please speak up or take your mask off or something.
I don't know what's happening outside. Wow. When people are threatening other people's safety and coming into your face and threatening to throw things, that's a problem. But we have a question.
think the Nazis are on? Ours or yours?
If you genuinely have to ask this question after the last hour that we've been here,
She's going to answer your question. He asked the question, she want to answer.
sir, I'm sorry. Can we answer the question? Thank
Again,
you.
the professor. Assuming professor, I don't know.
The Nazis killed the Holocaust, and they killed them because they first dehumanized a group of people they didn't like. That's what happens every single day in the country across our country. The Nazis actually learned eugenics from Margaret Sanger and actually came here. The Nazi Party actually came here in the 1920s America.
We have a question. Thank you.
Shout out Tina and our amazing Students for Life team. Also, please forgive me for eating one of these. Hi, Kristan. Glad you jumped back up. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead slightly because things get a little wild.
Should be called bastards.
Let me go back. Actually, this was important. Okay, so this girl ends up coming forward and has a great question, and we have a real conversation that was very productive. So at this point, I just want to say, again, do not let this video convince you that this is normal on college campuses. It's not normal. This is the one-of-one extreme example of what happens when leftism over liberalism has taken hold and taken the minds and hearts and souls of people in my generation. But this is not the majority of my generation. The majority of my generation that I interact with day in and day out asks questions exactly like this one that you are about to hear. This girl came to the event. She clearly comes from a very different walk of life than myself, said that she was pro-choice, was wearing a mask. We're very different people, and that's okay, but she had a real question, and I provided a real answer, and this is the type of conversations that Kristan and I are having on college campuses nationwide every single day that we do this speaking tour.
Ask a legitimate question and have a real dialogue. Okay, yes. Hey, thank you for coming. Can you come a little bit closer? It's just really hard for us to hear.
Okay, I understand how passionate you are about saving children,
Yeah.
but when it comes to terms with actual children who are forced to give birth against their will, like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think that's a very tragic circumstance, and we talked about this a lot.
We'd like to give an answer to her question, please. Thank
Would
you.
you like me to answer your question, Bill? Or would you want to? Would you like to tell your question?
Yeah. That's a
In case you can't hear because people are screaming, this girl came forward and she said, you say that you care about children, you say that you're trying to protect children. What happens when a child is raped by her father, for example? Why should that child be forced to carry that baby and be forced to birth that baby, essentially? The forced birther argument is quite common on college campuses that we face, and this is a really common question that we face on college campuses and in the digital space alike. If you really care about children, how can you possibly say that a child who was raped by her father, or the 10-year-old who was raped situation that the professor, we're calling him the professor, I don't know if he's a professor, those types of stories, how do you overcome that? How do you justify that? Fantastic question, common question, and Kristan is saying those are horrible situations, but ultimately the answer is not more trauma, and we're going to keep unpacking.
Great question.
You don't want you in our country.
The one that is not going to be, the young girl is not going to be able to give her to like help her get to as far away as possible, and then she delivers the child with C-section, and no one's telling her to come here. They're going obviously out of control.
Again, hard to hear, but generally what she's saying is in that situation and in those circumstances, we would encourage that child being placed for adoption, that an adoptive family would be able to welcome that child into their home. That child that was raped or whatever is not forced to parent that child, but the answer is not more trauma.
For that child, but we don't think that child who received the rape, his father is a monster, is also a monster. Just like how we don't believe that people who are born out of wedlock should be called bastards and should have less privileges than they used to.
The incredible irony of these people screaming "F these fascists" instead of just having a conversation. When that's fascism. I know somebody just said in our YouTube chat, I wish I could hear her answer. I'm about to start talking, so it will be a little bit louder, but I hate that you guys can't really hear because this was the dialogue that we came to campus to have, that we have every single day on college campuses all across America. It's just that a very small but very loud vocal minority was preventing those conversations from happening.
My great-grandmothers were bastards, and they were born in workhouses with no privilege, no right to inherit any property. That was wrong. We also think treating children who is deceived and sexual assault as monsters because their fathers are monsters is equally wrong, because every human being has an equal right to life and equal worth as long as they're innocent, right?
We also think that when a child has had so much horrible trauma happen to them, like rape or incest or being raped by her father, like the instance that you're saying, the answer to treat that girl's pain is not to add more trauma to the situation. So abortion always ends the life of a child, but it also always puts the life of the mother at risk. Planned Parenthood has killed several women from abortion procedures. The chemical abortion, the abortion pill that you take at home, always puts the life of the mom at risk. Women bleed out in their bathroom, and it's absolutely tragic and horrifying. Obviously, it's a less than ideal circumstance, and it's a tragic, harrowing reality, but the answer to help that child and that girl is not to add more trauma to her circumstance. We want to help walk her through that trauma and find healing on the other side, instead of giving her twice as likely reality to be committing suicide later on in life.
I actually was like caught up in the craziness. It's not twice as likely, it's substantially more than twice as likely that a woman who has had an abortion will commit suicide later on in her life. Kristan, if you're still watching in the chat, I believe it's 6 times more likely to commit suicide if you've had an abortion. So fact check me in the chat. My brain's all over the place today, but it's actually a lot more than what I just said.
To have higher rates of anxiety and depression. Abortion would only add to the trauma of her circumstance rather than helping her in the situation that she's in. And thank you genuinely for coming and asking a question. This is why we're here, so we appreciate you. Sorry, I'm so sorry, I can barely hear you. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then by a grown man, that's pedophilia. And so then saying, oh, the little girl should give you like
it's horrifying, and I wish we could have a real dialogue about it because, sorry.
So what you're not seeing right now, just off camera, on the other side of this very sweet young woman who took the time to come speak to me tonight, this is when the punches start getting thrown. So way over in the corner of the room, which I did not capture on my phone. I know it was captured on Kristen's live stream on her Instagram, so you can go watch that. This is when people start getting punched, and these are some clips that are circulating virally on Twitter.
Because these are the conversations that are dominating the news cycle and making us hate each other, right? But we don't have to hate each other. We can have a real conversation just like this, not like what our friends over there are doing, and find common ground together and really learn how to progress through this very important issue that our generation really cares about, right?
This is when the police had finally showed up. So we are 27 minutes into this video. This is 27 minutes, actually more than that because I started streaming a few minutes in. This was about half an hour into our event tonight that the police finally decided to show up. After punches start getting thrown, after some really insane things had started happening with the crowd, their solution was to send a police officer in, a campus police officer, and scream, "Get the fuck out," to all of the people in the room. That was their solution. Naturally, if you have any experience working with protesters, the response from the protesters was, "No, you get the fuck out, you leave first." And so then they start chanting, "You leave first." They end up bringing a ton of police officers into the room. There's about 10 minutes left in the video, so I want to make sure we get to finish it. But this is when things escalate to the climax.
So thank you so much for being here. What's your name? Nice to meet you, Jamie. I'm Isabel, and I'm very, very glad that you were able to come tonight. I'm sorry this is all happening, but this is why we wanted to have this event, so that we could ask tough questions like that and work together to figure out a solution. Because that's how we fix problems in this country, right? It's not by screaming at each other or...
I start having some glitches here.
Well, I had a really nice conversation with my new friend Jamie, who came and asked an important question about what would happen if a child was raped by her father and how we would handle a situation of abortion that way. It was a great question. We want more questions like that. Unfortunately, people are just screaming instead, so that's been fascinating. The campus police have now decided to come out of nowhere. They decided not to come initially, and we will see how this goes. We had a great question, so if we have any other questions, please feel free to come have a real conversation with us. You are all invited.
This girl starts screaming at Kristan, "Why did you bring your surgical tool fear tactics to campus to try to scare us into being pro-life?" If you really can't look at surgical tools that are used for other things too, not just abortions, but if you really can't look at surgical tools that are used to perform abortions, are you really that comfortable defending the abortion industry and the practice of abortion this firmly? If it makes you that uncomfortable and afraid to look at the tool that theoretically performs that procedure. Kristan says, "Just got home to my babies, gotta go. Thank you, Isabel, for joining me tonight." Kristan, you're the best. If you guys aren't already following her on social media, please go follow Kristan Hawkins. That's A-N, not E-N, like our troll that was trying to impersonate her earlier. And Kristan will make sure to plug our new donation opportunity for private security on these campuses. Don't you worry. We'll see you in the next couple of weeks at our next tour stop. So this girl starts screaming at Kristan.
Can you come a little tiny bit closer? It's just hard to hear.
She's like, you're just talking. Yeah, you asked a question, girl.
So your question? Yeah, that's a great question. So, no, yes, there are currently 3,000 pro-life pregnancy centers across America that provide free That's what we believe in. So I hope that that's okay. Well, that's a different conversation than
If
the
you
question.
didn't hear her, she said, okay, well, I hear you that pro-life pregnancy centers provide better health care for women, but what if I just want an effing abortion? Okay, well, quiet part out loud here.
That you asked me. I'm so sorry. I'm having a really hard time hearing you. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. I really appreciate your question. All right. Anybody else?
Again, we haven't given even a speech yet. We've said nothing.
I know, it's hard to hear. Right, so the question is, are you aware that abortion is a medical term? Because abortion is a term that has been used for treatment of ectopic pregnancy and miscarriage. Ectopic pregnancy and miscarriage treatment is fundamentally different from an elective abortion. I would love to answer your question. The treatment for an ectopic pregnancy and a miscarriage.
Okay, then I had to stop. This girl asked me, are you aware that you still technically call it an abortion if it's treatment for an ectopic pregnancy or miscarriage? We're actually starting to call those different things now because they are fundamentally different. One involves the removal of dead tissue from a woman's body. The other involves the intentional killing of a living child from that woman's body. So two very different things. I had to stop answering the question because at this point right here, and I didn't capture this on video, but other people did, punches started flying through the air. People started getting attacked. It was incredibly fast-paced and fast-moving and very difficult to process all of that information at the same time. I personally was never really put in physical danger, at least that I know of. I could have just been paying attention to the Q&A and not really paying attention so much to my surroundings. Praise Jesus that I was safe. I honestly think the Holy Spirit really just guided me through this whole experience, being incredibly calm and rational and kind to these people when I could have very easily risen to that level of emotional insanity and just losing my mind a little bit in the midst of this environment. But right here, there's a big scuffle that starts happening. Our private security that was taking care of us got involved. The local police got involved. Other people started throwing punches. And unfortunately, the chapter president of the Students for Life group, her name is Autumn, and she is an incredible warrior for truth in the midst of all of this insanity every day, was injured in the process.
Dad, watch my purse.
So
This should never happen.
So I'd be happy to start my talk now.
And
I'd love to
police
finish
department's going to start taking these threats seriously.
answer your question if you want to have a conversation about it. Okay, what's up? I am so sorry. There's a lot of yelling. We can't hear you.
I can't see your face. What? Well, you can hear me.
We can't really hear you.
Because we can't see
There's a lot of screaming going on over there. So can you just try to yell maybe?
Did you know that the U.S. has one of the highest death maternity rates?
It does, yeah.
That's terrible.
And that's something we're fighting against every single day. We don't like a high maternity death rate. We're fighting against that with better health care for women.
Having abortion doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lower maternity death rate. In fact, Poland and Chile, countries that historically have always banned abortion, have actually had the lowest rates. So there's two things that go hand in hand. There's a lot of reasons why we
So at this point, it's just all out mayhem. A handful of people are yelling questions at us. A handful of people have been escorted into the hallway. I believe one arrest was made. Punches have been thrown, the whole nine, and now we're just deciding what to do. So at this point, the one police officer who showed up and told everybody to get the fuck out has now brought a cohort, and they are on their way to the room right now, and this is when they decided to shut down the event.
If you guys are just tuning in with us, we are live at Virginia Commonwealth University, where we've been unable to give a speech about the lies that the pro-choice industry tells my generation.
Alex, thank you so much for your donation in our YouTube super chat. Unbelievably grateful for you, my amazing friend. You say y'all are the definition of owning your opinions and being passionately pro-life. Keep up the awesome work, Isabel, and stay safe. I cannot wait to start watching your live stream when you start, buddy, and thank you so much for all of your passionate responses in our live chat tonight. Very grateful for you.
Instead, Antifa has decided to show up. Punches are being thrown. The police originally weren't going to come. Now they have decided to come. And we are taking a small handful of students' questions who are interested in having a real dialogue. Thank you for coming and for your questions.
Who refused to, I don't know, remove the violent protesters and the people screaming at us in the midst of our event that we were invited to. We were asked to come speak at, not the other way around. And instead, they make the conscious decision to remove Kristan and I from the event and from the venue for our safety, instead of letting the event proceed as requested.
And thank you.
We have a question in our YouTube super chat. We can donate, ? Yes, you can donate in super chats if you are watching on YouTube. You just hit the little $ thing. I am a completely independent content creator. I don't make a lot of money from these streams. As you can tell, we're a pretty low budget production tonight in a random airport hotel room with really bad Wi-Fi. So thank you so much for all of you who do choose to financially support the stream. It goes towards really easy stuff like microphones and webcams and cords and better Wi-Fi. But I never ask that you guys have to do that to watch the stream.
Are you okay? Okay, I know a lot's going on, but we had some other people come in. Were there any other questions? What?
Now the police start forming a barricade from me and Kristan standing behind the podium to everybody else in the audience, and this is when I knew something started going weird.
Are we fat phobic now?
My body, sir. Yes, you did. That's what you just did. You're fat phobic. Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it.
God, you're transphobic. God, you're a fucking Nazi.
Ah, yes. Now we have Porn Stash Mullet Man, who I will come back to after we finish the video, but this is someone who has been pretty notorious on campus, has a reputation on campus for violently protesting all of this stuff. It was known he was going to be at the event. He was asking people on Twitter to come and protest the event in whatever way possible, and the police have a history with this person and still chose not to come to the event. So, tells you everything you need to know about the priorities there.
So again, the irony of calling this Nazis.
Thank you, LGM, for your donation in our chat. Very grateful for you.
We want to stay. We want to have a real conversation. Why can't we remove?
So, as you can see, there's probably a dozen police officers in this video. This female police officer comes up and says, "Come with me. We're leaving the room. I'm escorting you to a safe room for your own safety." And I say, why can't we remove all of the violent protesters instead of letting Kristan and I speak on a public university campus where we've been invited to speak? And they don't give us the option. They force us out of the room.
Listen to us, man. If we take you across the way,
Yeah.
we're gonna lock that conference room, okay? After our agreements into it. And we'll get these other people out.
Okay, we want to have a real conversation. We would prefer not to leave.
This is not the way to do it. We're not having.
I agree. It's not the way to do it.
He says, this isn't the way to have a real conversation, so we're just going to make you leave. Well, no shit, this isn't the way to have a real conversation. Remove the people throwing punches and let us have a dialogue that we were invited to do.
They're temporarily removing us from the room.
And, like every horrible decision from these woke college campuses, removing the speaker has now empowered every single one of those violent protesters to think that they won. Because frankly, they did. They were able to get the event canceled. They were able to get the event shut down. Because instead of removing people who would rather punch people in the face and throw punches and destroy equipment and prevent any sort of actual event from happening, instead they want to remove the two pro-life women who were calmly standing there answering people's questions for 35 minutes.
Instead of kicking out the protesters, because that's modern America. We're not going to leave until we talk. It's a public campus. Wow, you guys, this is wild. The irony of screaming, "Fascists go home," while literally behaving like a Nazi fascist crybaby is mind-blowing to me. We did have a few people ask genuine questions. Our pro-life chapter president here of our Students for Life chapter was attacked physically, which is insane, but I've never been to Virginia Commonwealth University. I don't know any of the people in there. They don't know anything about me. They just saw a post from Antifa on social media, and that was how they decided to react. It's disgusting and sad that these people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in college tuition to learn how to behave like that.
Stand by what I said.
Very sad. So let's check in with our chapter president. She has been attacked.
A police officer picked up someone who was fighting and shoved him in the table, and I got thrown into the table. During the process, I had a big welt on my leg now, and it hurts really bad, so hopefully it's not too serious.
Were you guys expecting this type of response from your classmates?
No, we weren't expecting this response at all, honestly. A lot of pro-choice on this campus act like they don't care and choose to not show up.
Yeah.
So I thought they wouldn't come at all. It's not what they expected here.
So I know it's late. It's 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. We'll wrap up watching this video. But this is Autumn. She's the chapter president of the Students for Life chapter here. She ended up getting shoved into the wall while people were throwing punches at each other and injured her leg. She was seen by EMTs. She's going to be okay. I certainly would love to invite all of you to pray for her safety as she navigates the rest of her academic year with all of these people on her college campus with her. But these are the types of warriors that have unsung stories of heroism and standing up for truth in a truthless world. And I'm incredibly grateful for the work that she is putting in on campus. Long story short, they escort us into this room that was basically like a conference room, saying that we were in danger and the only way to prevent us from being attacked is to lock us in this room. And I say lock kind of as a subjective term. The door's locked from the outside, so you couldn't get in, and the police were completely surrounding this room, and every time that we asked if it was okay to leave, they said, no, it is not okay to leave, you cannot leave. So essentially, for about 2 hours, Kristan and I were detained in this room, told that we couldn't leave, told that the event was no longer happening. At some point, they let in several students who did want to hear us talk, both pro-life and pro-choice, and we were able to have a really great conversation. We videoed that for you guys to see later on. But we finished our event, answering people's questions and having a great conversation that we wish we would have been able to have in the original room with about a dozen students in this weird detainment locked room that we were told that we were not allowed to leave from. I ended up spending about 2 hours in this room, and all of the police officers were using the original event room to question people and take people's statements, and I believe one arrest has been made. We put out an official press release while we were in the weird locked detain room from Students for Life, and so I think this is a great opportunity to just get all of the facts really quick, especially if you're just now joining us and didn't have an opportunity to watch that full live stream. We put this out this evening in the midst of being essentially detained. Antifa and transgender activists use violence and volume to shut down SFLA event with President Kristan Hawkins. This is all from the stream that we just watched. Basic points that you need to know and key takeaways. A scheduled stop at our tour for Virginia Commonwealth University erupted into violence. A heckler's veto was attempted and arguably did succeed because all of these people in the crowd screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and screamed and escalated their tactics to the point that we were no longer allowed to have the event on a public university campus where we were invited to speak. School police refused to stop violent protesters who were shoving and shouting to shut down the event, and instead they escorted both of us out of the room. They were shouting, F pro-lifers, Nazis go home, fascists go home. Kristan said, you're gonna have to arrest me, I'm not leaving the campus, and their solution to that was just fine, we just won't even have the event then. That's absolutely ridiculous. This all happened tonight. I'm gonna drop this link to the press release in our live chat right now because I think this is a great way for you guys to share what is going on in the world and share this with the people in your community and just get the word out there, generally speaking. But we ended up telling the story of what happened. We linked some tweets in there with some other videos that you didn't get a chance to see. We are specifically hoping to reinstitute private security for myself, for Kristan, and for any of our other individuals who do these speaking events and appearances for Students for Life and are directly impacted by all of this. I know that you guys can probably imagine security is incredibly expensive, and so I'm also dropping the link right here for you to donate to Students for Life of America. They are a nonprofit organization and are really doing the Lord's work out here on college campuses, making sure that students have the opportunity to learn a difference of opinion and really get exposed to the truth and exposed to fundamental realities about the abortion industry and about the lies that we are telling Gen Z as we know it each and every day. Key takeaways. I personally never felt unsafe until after I was locked in this weird detainment room. And then I realized how ridiculous the entire situation was. I'm incredibly grateful that the Holy Spirit had just like washed over me. I was really calm. I was really patient the entire time. I laughed at all of it. Like, it never really dawned on me that I could personally be in physical danger until after I left that particular environment and was calm in a different room. But I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to speak to so many other students and adults alike who genuinely did want a difference of opinion. And so I want you to view this and, yes, be alarmed at just how far the left has gone in indoctrinating so many people in America, not just Gen Zers on college campuses, but through every walk of life and through every age group. Beyond that, I want you to know that that is not the norm. That I still have remarkable hope within Generation Z, because in the midst of all of that intimidation, in the midst of knowing that you are going to be screamed at, you are going to be potentially physically assaulted, you are going to be outcast from society, you're going to have your personal danger or your personal safety put in jeopardy and put in danger's way. Even in the midst of all of that, there were still people who, after the fact, chose to stick around and ask us questions and have a real conversation. Every single day, the people that I meet on the digital side of things, on social media and on college campuses, continue to inspire me day in and day out with their intellectual curiosity, with their hunger for real dialogue, and their complete intolerance to this type of behavior, which, generally speaking, Generation Z is sick and tired of. We talk about it all the time on the stream, so I won't go into specific examples there, but we're sick and tired of authoritarian, one-way streets of thinking on our college campuses, on our social media feeds, and in the midst of American culture, in every pillar of American culture. We are ready for real conversation and real dialogue, and that's why events like this are important to continue happening. Kristan and I have a very specific ask from Virginia Commonwealth University. You are a public university. You are a taxpayer-funded university. As such, it is not only your role, but your responsibility to uphold the United States Constitution, and that starts with the First Amendment to our Bill of Rights, which protects freedom of expression and freedom of speech. And beyond that, you as an academic institution of higher education have a responsibility to your students to allow for a challenge of their perspectives, a real dialogue about how the world works, and encouraging people to broaden their intellectual curiosity. So, Virginia Commonwealth University, Kristan and I would like to ask, respectfully, that you have us back on campus, that you protect the event from happening, that the campus police are there and present throughout the event to make sure that it is able to happen safely, and that you give us a much better venue to speak in, that we can accommodate more people who didn't have the opportunity to come the first time. Because unlike so many people that will back down, we are not backing down in the face of this backlash and adversity. The last thing I'll say is this. As a Christian, it's really tempting in America today to fall in line with how America views Christianity. This feel-good, warm and fuzzy, you're always going to have a seat in the pew and a community to call home, and it's always going to be great to be a Christian mentality that I think has fundamentally taken over American Christianity, both Protestant and Catholicism in America today. That is not true. And if you are watching this and you are a Christian, but even if you're not religious, if you just believe in objective truth in a world that's rejecting that very concept today, I think we need to be aware and prepared that it's not always going to be really fun. It's not always even going to be safe. I think as we get closer to the return of the Lord and Savior of the universe, Jesus Christ, this stuff is only going to become more common and more regular on college campuses and other events that we participate in. But that's no reason to back down. Just because things are difficult on this side of heaven is not a bad thing. In fact, it's usually a giant, like, airplane traffic controller sign that you are going in the right direction. Because it was Jesus who said, if you thought that the world hated you, look at how it hated me first. And that word hated is repeated over and over and over again throughout the Bible, that if you are willing to share the truth of Christianity, if you're willing to share truth, period, in a world that's rejecting the concept of truth, you are not going to be loved. You are not going to be popular. You are not going to be widely embraced by society. You are going to be hated. You are going to be persecuted. You may have your safety put in jeopardy. You may even have your life put in jeopardy. But that's absolutely no reason to sit down and to back down and to be silent, because this world needs truth now more than ever. Pro-life speech is free speech too, says Students for Life Action over on our YouTube chat. And it's never been more important for us to continue speaking up in truth and scientific fact and biology, but also just freely speaking. In a world where we are becoming more authoritarian by the day, I will take on any persecution that the world is going to throw at me if I'm even able to change the minds of just one or two people on college campuses. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to do that too. It doesn't have to look like me speaking on a college campus or going on Fox News or live streaming every night. For you, that could look like posting one thing to your social media, or talking to your kids about what they're learning in school, or even being brave and willing enough to talk about politics or religion around the family dinner table or Thanksgiving this year. It can look like a million different things, but it is incredibly imperative that each and every one of us answer the call to get involved in this culture war that is threatening to pull apart the seams of society as we know it today. I want to say a huge thank you to African Warlord in our YouTube chat for dropping $50 in our super chat. Insane. Thank you so much. Literally just made my entire day and is so much well beyond anything I would ever ask for. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That makes such a huge difference in my journey as an independent content creator. You said, have breakfast on me or a stiff drink. You earned it. I will be pouring myself a glass of wine when I get home on Friday after being here for the last couple of days on the road. And ultimately, I just want to say thank you to all of you for watching these live streams, for supporting the events that I'm doing on college campuses, for sharing my content on other social media platforms. Independent commentary and independent content creation is the future of how we deliver information for my generation and everyone who comes after us. And we only are able to combat the intolerance and the lies and the hatred like the people that came to this event tonight if we are willing to keep getting up and keep speaking the truth in whatever capacity we can. I have chosen to do that as a content creator, and none of that would be possible if you guys didn't engage with this content and share it and subscribe and donate in the super chat and just support everything that I'm doing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please pray for me as I continue to navigate speaking on college campuses this semester and combating this stuff on the digital space. Share this stream anywhere and everywhere. Don't forget to give some love to Students for Life. Please consider donating to our private security fund. I already dropped that link in the live chat, so you should be able to find it, but you can also find it on their website. Give a big follow to Kristan Hawkins, to Students for Life, to Students for Life Action. Huge shout out to our chapter at Virginia Commonwealth University. Keep up the fight. Don't back down. Continue getting up. We are going to impact so many people's lives with goodness and with truth if we're just willing to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Much love. I don't know that I'm going to be returning to Richmond anytime soon, but I lost my Antifa virginity tonight, and I had to share it with all of you because I, for one, am very excited to see that there is backlash to sharing the truth, because that means that we are impacting culture and people are afraid of that. So let's keep doing it again tomorrow. Thank you guys. Don't forget to hit that sub or follow button on whatever platform you are watching on right now. Share the stream. Big shout out to everybody who donated in our super chat. Much love to everybody, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our stream.